What? Hello, this is Ben, and today we're going to be repairing the camber, or fixing this '99 Nissan Sentra. And the problem it has is that the tires, it's really old, and the tire doesn't really ride flat. It rides like more to the inside, and so it wears more on the inside edge. And we want to fix that. And so that's what we're doing today. I've got one of the old tires that was on the front back here, and you can see like this side is worn smoother than this side. This one still had some life in it, so I didn't throw it away. But yeah, this caused me problems, and had a tire go out on the way to Augusta with my brother when I was kind of in a big hurry. So anyway, as you can see, before we do this, we need the car to be, off the ground with the wheels off, but it has to be level. I don't know if you can tell it. That's so not level. So this pavement, I checked it for level with my level, and it's leveled this way. Coming out of the carport, it probably, hopefully, drains that way. So it's probably not level that way. Let's have a look. And yeah, that's exactly what it was supposed to be, just slightly higher, going, that way. That's what it's supposed to do. And then this way, hopefully I find a spot with no dirt. This is level. Okay, so once I have that figured out, then I can just block it up and make sure I just put the same blocks on one side that I put on the other side. So we're gonna do that now and let it off the jack, and then we'll adjust the camber, which the camber is like another pointless extra word in the English language. I mean, it's not pointless, but it just means you adjust if the tire's riding more on the inside edge or the outside edge. Alright, so I was having trouble getting it level, and it looked like this side was higher to my eye. And then put the level back here on the trunk, which is kind of a flat spot, and this is saying the same thing my eye was. So that's two independent sources of information coinciding on the same point, that this point is higher than this point. So, or actually it was the other way around. This is the high side to my eye and to the level. But now we've got it looking level to the eye and to that. So we're going to adjust them. So like the wheel spins on a shaft with bearings, and then there's a disc brake, and the disc brake hunk of metal has bolts that mount to the actual rim and to the tire. There's two bolts where that connects to the rest of the car. What you're going to do is this bolt is going to stay in and this bolt's going to come out, and you can pivot, and there's a special bolt that we bought that goes in there. So what we bought, I was speaking we like I'm writing some kind of scholarly something. The bolts from Amazon.com. I think the whole in a little tool. So to tell when we got it set right. So the bolts have a cam on them. They're basic camber adjusting bolts. So they have a cam on them, and a cam is when there's like a piece of metal on the thing that's got a lump in it, basically, or it's not the proper shape. And as I spin the head of the bolt, it will move where that thing sits. Alright, we'll see that in a minute. And this is the level to check it out. So it's about 20 to 30 bucks, I guess, for the whole 9 yards. So this has a magnet on it, and it just goes right onto the disc, and so it's got a bubble, and we can see that this is like a really wide level, so it shows slight variations. Okay, so the camber measuring tool actually has to be calibrated, has to be adjusted correctly. And so the way we're going to do that is we're going to take an actual level and find a place that's straight up and down, or plumb, and that looks really accurate on this wall right here. And so then make a note of where that is, and boom this on here, and play with it until that's dead on. And so that's how we're going to calibrate this thing. Alright, I had to put the wheels back on and let it back down because I forgot to do this part. But what you want to do is, once you have this guy adjusted, like, check that this thing has degrees on it, so you can see like how many degrees off you are. So now I see that the car is riding, and indeed it is riding high this way. It says high that way. Does that make sense? It's high to the outside, which means it'd be bearing on the outside edge is lifted up and the inside edge is pressed down. And so you can make a note of like how far off you are, which that's not very far off, but apparently it makes a difference. And to double check and make sure this point maybe isn't the best point to do it to check on. I'll just double check and see if we get the same measurement. We're going to put it on this flat piece of steel and like hold it across 2 points here, and we do indeed get the exact same measurement. So it's off, but it is ever so slightly off. Okay, and so we'll check the other side, and by doing this we'll see like how many degrees off we are, how far off we are, and then when we come back in, we actually on the rotor might be getting a different measurement. Let's put it on the rotor and see what we get on the disc. The same thing. Okay, so the issue is that when I jack it up, I may jack it up uneven or something, and it may sit differently. But I can jack it up and just see how many degrees I want to adjust it the other way, and then I'll know, that I've got it right, because this is how it's riding. And that's what matters really. That how does it ride when the wheels are on and when it's on the road? Because we want it to wear evenly on this side that it does on this side instead of extra on this side. The tires gonna last a lot longer. And luckily we've got this floor jack for people like me who make mistakes. And what I can do is jack this thing up 10 times faster than I was using the old Nissan scissor lift. Not the one that came with the car. But actually a different one that like I bought at a yard sale that like would have come with the car because it was still Nissan. That's weird. Anyway, that's the story. We'll get back to you in just a second. Should say something about reading this guy. So what it's showing is that's like towards the -1 degree mark. That would be like half, and that would be quarter, and it's like a half and a half. It's like a quarter and a half of a quarter off, so it's like 3/8 of a degree off. So 3/8 of a degree. Okay, so we came over to the other side, and this one's like almost dead on, which seems odd to me because I did have trouble with it in the past, but those are some really old tires. So we're just going to keep an eye on it and driving around some later and check it. Since I have the tools, I don't have to get the job done in one day. But that other side was definitely off, and was off in the way that I suspected. So we'll go ahead and adjust it using the special adjusting bolt. Alright, so I've left that wheel on and got this one off. The one that the tool indicated problems. So I didn't have to worry super amounts about getting the car jacked up level, because we just know that it's 3/8 of a degree adjustment. So this thing, it's apparently pretty level because it's reading the same thing. It's reading exactly 3/8 of a degree off. So we got lucky. So all we need to do is adjust it 3/8 of a degree. So that's going to involve taking this bolt out, which is a Nissan, so it's almost certainly metric. Alright, so the bolts loosened up super easy, but I made a mistake. I just used like a 1/2" ratchet with a 17mm socket and wrench. But I made a mistake. I took this one out, and then before I put the special cam bolt in, I loosened the bottom one, and the whole thing just like moved, and like I needed the power of gray skull to like accurately just pick that thing up. So what I did was put the old bolt back in and tighten this one down, and make sure the lower one's good and tight, then put the cam bolt in. Okay, the new cam bolt's in. Tapped in with a washer. There was a weird metal nub sticking that way on the washer. It's weird. But anyway, the point is now we rotate this bolt until this guy reads the correct thing, and then we're good. And then we can just tighten this bolt down to proper torque specifications, which says do not exceed torque specifications. And then I've got to, they tell me to like measure the bolt, and then I'll know the torque specifications. Thank you for your help. I forgot to say that, like, now that the top cam bolt's fully inserted in the hole, we can loosen the lower one. These are called the strut bolts apparently. So now this one can be loosened so that we have movement. And that, like, once you've got them loose, like, the whole thing moves and it throws off this thing. So you gotta remember 3/8 of a degree. Okay, so we're just gonna turn this, and hopefully you can see it. Like, as you turn it, it's gonna adjust things. So right now it's loose. I'm just gonna turn it so that the bubble moves, you know, that way, that way, 3/8 of a degree. And I want to be careful, so I'm not going to film the actual bubble. Okay, so this isn't expert how-to knowledge. This is my first time doing this, but this is how I learn everything I know. And so you're just watching me learn. I decided to just make the thing level, because before, when I had it on there, the wheel on there, and I checked it, it was showing the problem that I was having with the wheel riding more on the inside. And then took the wheel off, and I had the exact same measurement on here. Now that I've loosened the bolts, it's like everything's wackadoo. So I just made the thing level. We're gonna tighten it down. The good thing is I've got the cam bolt on here, so I can always, you know, just make another adjustment now. And I can, I got this guy to check things, and so I can go to parking lots and just keep it in the car and just like give it a quick checkaroo as long as it's calibrated well. So we're gonna tighten it down. We gotta get a measurement though. So here's my calipers. $7 Land of China. Awesomeness. Okay, boom. And we get 9.94 millimeters. Let me guess, that's not even like on the thing. They got 12 millimeter. So they sell me a bolt and they sell me a torque specification size chart, and then the bolt is not even. It's a 10 millimeter bolt. Let's check the old one. The old one's 12. We'll go with the 12. Alright. And now we need the torque wrench and all that stuff. So I'm going to tighten the nut down and then torque it to the specifications, but the key, I don't want to move the actual bolt physically, so I got a whole other wrench on there, and like, no movement, just like hold it super still while I tighten that one. So here's the torque wrench. When you're doing stuff like this, you kind of got to have it, an essential tool, and this is one of those that, like, it'll just make a click when you reach torque. It's set to 60 foot-pounds. It's a lot tighter than I would have hand tightened it. There it is, 60 foot-pounds. And we'll do the bottom one too, then put the wheel back on. Alright, before we put the wheel back on, we're just double checking our adjustment is the same as what we meant for it to be. So what I've learned with this is, like, there's so much play in this bottom bolt that, like, that throws off. Like, I had this thing and it was high to the outside, and it was high to the outside based on the wheel. I jacked it up, put it on the thing, put it on the blocks, and it showed the exact same measurement off the rotor. which the rotor measurement was the same as when I just stuck it to the hub of the wheel anyway. And when I put the bar on there, they were all the same. But then once I loosened this bolt, the whole thing like slid down. So like, and then all of a sudden I was high to this side. So I just put it in the middle, you know, and hope for the best. What I'm thinking is like, this wheel showed the same thing when I was just making my measurements based off having a wheel on each side. I got the same thing as when I was on the blocks. So I'm, you know, going off of that. But keep that in mind, like this bottom bolt, you better not be messing with this bottom bolt until you're good and ready, because it could just throw everything off. You need to have the top bolt in there, because that's what I did. I took the bottom bolt loose and the whole thing just move-a-looved. Anyway, let's put the wheel on. So we've got the wheel back on. We're going to double check and see how far off we are. And it's reading a little better, but it's still a little off. And it's looking awesome from the rotor though. And that wheel measurement's looking a little off, but better. The way you want it really. So that would mean that this thing is riding better, because when you come back and you got the wheel back on and it looks good, it's probably better. Especially it looked good from the rotor. So what we want to do now is tighten the wheel down, but I want to make a recommendation. Purchase and use a torque wrench, especially to tighten wheel lugs. There's a proper torque for them. Okay, and like I know a lot of people just want to mock or make fun and say this is a waste of time, but like seriously, dude, I don't know how many times my dad always told me just tighten them down good, and like I tighten them down, and then when I go to take the lug off or something, it just torques off or breaks off. So then I finally said, I'm going to stop doing that. I'm going to, somehow with my hands, I'm going to get it right. And then I had like two loose and the wheel came off.